The pines don't whisper in the Pine Barrens. They warn. Tonight, House of the Wolf horror drags you deep into New Jersey's most haunted wilderness, where the trees grow close, the night presses too tight, and something old still stalks the sand and the cedar. For more than 300 years, travelers have reported a winged shape slipping between the branches, hooves striking the dirt, a scream that doesn't belong to any living thing. Some say it was born of a curse. Others swear it's the last remnant of something prehistoric, feral, and furious. But everyone agrees on one thing. When the Jersey Devil wants you, you hear it long before you see it. So lock your doors, keep your eyes on the tree line, and welcome to House of the Wolf Horror, where tonight we hunt the legend that's been hunting New Jersey since 1735.
I didn't want to retreat. And that's the part people always skip when they ask me what happened out there. As if the beginning doesn't matter. As if the Pine Barrens only started existing the moment we stepped into them. But the truth is, the dread started long before the woods swallowed us. It started in the office, on the fluorescent lights, when my manager announced the team building weekend, with the kind of forced cheer that made my stomach twist. Mandatory fun, I muttered under my breath. Nobody heard me. Or maybe they did and pretended not to. That was the thing about our team. We were all pretending something. Pretending we liked each other. Pretending we weren't exhausted. Pretending we weren't all quietly competing for the same promotion. There were 5 of us. Me, Lydia Mendez, the reluctant participant. Hannah, the extroverted project manager who organized everything. Tara, the sarcastic UX designer who hated authority. Mark, the numbers guy who tried too hard to be liked. Evan, the outdoorsy one who insisted the Pine Barrens were basically harmless. I didn't know then that I'd be the only one to walk out. I didn't know that the woods had been waiting for us. I didn't know that something older than the country itself still hunted those trees. I didn't know that the Jersey Devil was real. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start where it really began. On the drive down Route 206, heading toward the Walton State Forest, the sky low and grey, the air thick with humidity even though it was early October. The kind of weather that feels like a warning. Lydia, you're awfully quiet back there. Hannah called from the front seat of the rented SUV. I'm fine, I lied. She smiled at me in the rearview mirror. The kind of smile people give when they're trying to coach you into being fun. This would be good for us. Fresh air, no emails, no Slack notifications, just nature. Yeah, I said. Great. But the trees press in on either side of the road. Tall, pitch pine trees leaning like eavesdroppers. The soil turned pale inside me. Sugar sand, Evan called it. And the world took on that strange Pine Barrens emptiness. No houses, no towns, just endless forest and the occasional dirt road disappearing into nowhere. Creepy, right? Tara sat beside me, her voice low, like the woods are hollow. I nodded. She wasn't wrong. The Pine Barrens didn't feel like other forests. They felt vacant, like something had carved out the middle of the world and left only the shell. We passed aside for Barstow Village, the old Irish settlement turned historic site. Then another for Ascian Lake, its surface dark and still. Then the long, lonely stretch forward Carranza Road, where the trees grew denser and the sky seemed farther away. Almost there, Evan said cheerfully. Troy, it's just off the fire road. I looked out the window again. The woods were waiting. We parked near a sandy pull-off where a faded wooden sign marked the start of the trail. The air smelled like pine resin and damp earth. The ground was soft, the sand shifting under my boots. Okay, team. Hannah clapped her hands. Let's get our gear and head in. Campsite's about 3 miles. 3 miles didn't sound like much, but the Pine Barrens had a way of stretching distance, making every step you feel like two. We started walking, our backpacks heavy. The trail narrow and winding. The trees were tall and thin, the branches twisted. The underbrush was sparse, but the shadows were thick. Anyone else feel like we're being watched? Mark joked. By what? Taylor snorted. A squirrel. Maybe the Jersey Devil, Evan said with a grin. Oh, please. And I groaned. Not that again. What? Evan shrugged. It's local folklore. Mother Leeds had her 13th child in 1735, cursed in, and it turned into a winged monster. Hooves, horns, the whole deal. People still report sightings. People also report seeing Bigfoot, Tara said. Yeah, but the Jersey Devil is different, Evan insisted. There are footprints, tracks, weird sounds. Whole towns used to shut down when it was spotted. Okay, enough. Let's not freak Lydia out. I stiffened. I'm not freaked out, but I was. Not by the story, by the woods themselves, by the way the wind didn't move the branches, by the way the silence felt heavy, by the way the trails seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at it. We reached the campsite just before dusk, a clearing near a cedar swamp. The water dark and still reflecting the sky like a breeze. We set up our tents, built a small fire, ate dehydrated meals that tasted like cardboard. The night settled in fast, too fast. The pine barrens didn't ease into darkness. They dropped into it. One moment the sky was dim, the next it was black, and then the noises started. Not animal noises, not the rustle of leaves or the chirps of insects. These were different. A distant, high-pitched keening, a low, guttural growl, a flapping sound, heavy and deliberate. What the hell was that? Mark whispered. Probably a fox, Evan said, but his voice was tight. Foxes don't sound like that, Tara muttered. We sat close to the fire. The woods pressed in. The sounds came again, closer to stun. A scream, not human, not animal, something in between. My skin crawled. Okay, Hannah said, forcing a laugh. Let's all get some sleep. Big hike tomorrow. Nobody argued, but none of us slept. Not really, because sometime after midnight, something moved through the trees. Something big, something fast, something that stopped just beyond the firelight. I heard it breathing. I swear I did. A wet, rasping exhale, and it sounded like hooves scraping against sand. I held my breath. The thing stood there for a long time, watching, waiting, and then, with a sudden rush of wind, it was gone. I didn't sleep after that. I don't think any of us did. Morning came, grey and cold. The fire had burned down to embers. The swamp was still, the water dark as ink. Did anyone else hear? Mark began. Yes, we all said at once. Evan rubbed his eyes. Probably just a deer. Deer don't breathe like that, I said quietly. He didn't respond. We packed up camp and started hiking deep into the forest. The trail was faint, barely visible with sugar sun. The trees all looked the same. The air felt thick. After an hour, we reached a fork in the trail. Except it wasn't a fork. It was a split that shouldn't have been there. The map didn't show it. The GPS didn't register it. But the path was there. Two narrow trails diverging to the trees. Left, Evans said confidently. Definitely left. Why? Tara asked. Because the sun's over there, he said. East is that way. That's west, I said. He frowned. No, it's... The sun was directly overhead at 9:30 a.m. We all stared at it. That's not possible, Hannah whispered. The words were quiet. Too quiet. Okay, Evans said, forcing a smile. We'll go left. Worst case, we'll loop back. We went left. We should have gone right. We should have turned around. We should have run. But we didn't. We walked deep into the barrens. The barrens closed behind us. It happened around noon. We were walking single file, the trail narrow, the trees crowding in. I was behind her, watching our ponytail swing with each step. Then she stopped. Did you hear that? She whispered. We all froze. At first, I heard nothing. Then, a faint sound. A baby crying. Far away, but not that far. That's not real, Mark said. It can't be. It's coming from the swamp, Tara said. No, Evan snapped. We're not going in there. But Tara was already moving toward the sound, her face pale, her eyes wide. Tara! Hannah shouted, Stop! She didn't. She stepped off the trail and into the underbush. I ran after her. The ground turned soft beneath my boots. The air smelled like rum. The crying grew louder. Tara, wait! She didn't turn around. She walked straight into the cedar swamp. The water rippled around her ankles, then her knees, then her waist. Tara! I screamed. She stopped. The crying stopped. The words went silent. Then something moved beneath the water. Fast. A ripple. A splash. A shadow. Tara, get out! Evan yelled. She turned toward us. Her eyes were wide. Something's... She didn't finish. Something yanked under. Hard. She disappeared in an explosion of dark water. I screamed. Hannah screamed. Mark froze. Aaron ran forward. But the mine sucked at his boots, pulling him down. Tara! Tara! But she was gone. The water stilled. The swamp went silent. And then, from somewhere deep in the trees, we heard it. A scream. Not Tara's. Something else. Something triumphant. Something hungry. We ran. We didn't stop running until our lungs burned. The trail twisted beneath our feet. The trees blowing past. When we finally stopped, I gasping for air. The woods were different. The trees were shorter, scrubbier, twisted into strange shapes. The pygmy pines. Evan whispered, We shouldn't be here. What does that mean? Hannah demanded. It means we're miles off course. He said, These only grow near Warren Grove. We're nowhere near where we should be. That's impossible, Mark said. We didn't walk that far. We didn't, I said. The woods had moved. Or we had. The wind picked up, carrying a faint smell of sulfur. Okay, Hannah said, her voice shaking. We need to stay calm. We need to. A bird snapped behind us. We spun around. Nothing. Another snap. Closer. Run, I whispered. We did. We found them an hour later. Footprints. Deep in the sugar sun. But not deer tracks. These were wrong. Too large, too deep, too far apart. And there were claw marks behind them. What the hell made those? Mark whispered. Evan didn't answer. He didn't have to. We all knew. The Jersey Devil. The thing people laughed about. The thing tourists bought t-shirts of. The things locals warned you about with a wink. It was real. And it was hunting us. We were walking fast, trying to stay together, when Mark stopped. Guys, do you hear that? I listened. A faint voice, calling his name. Mark. It sounded like terror, but it wasn't. Don't, I said. It's not her. He stepped toward the sound. Mark! Hannah grabbed his arm. Stop! He shook her off. She needs help. She's dead, Evan said bluntly. Mark's face twisted. You don't know that. He walked toward the voice. Mark! I shouted. He didn't turn around. He walked into the trees. The voice grew louder. Mark! Help me! He disappeared behind a cluster of pitch pines. He waited. Seconds passed, then minutes. Mark? And he called. No answer. Mark! Evan shouted. Silence. Then a sound. A white, hairy strange sound, a gurgle, a thud. We ran, but we didn't find him. We found blood, a lot of it, and something else. A piece of fabric caught in a branch, marked shut, torn, shredded, burned at the edges, as if something hot had touched it, and it started crying. Evan swore underneath his breath. I stared at the trees. Something moved between them. Something tall, thin, winged. I blinked. It was gone. We found the tower near dusk. A rusted metal structure rising above the trees like a skeleton. It looked abandoned. We could see our location from there. Maybe get a signal. We climbed. The metal groaned beneath our weight. The wind howled through the beams. The sky darkened fast. At the top, the view stretched for miles. Endless forest. No roads. No towns. No lights. Just trees. And something else. Far below, near the base of the tower. Something moved. A shape. Pale, long-limbed, wrong. It looked up at us. Even from that height, I felt his eyes. Red, glowing, hungry. Jesus Christ. And I whispered, "What is that?" The Lean's devil. Evan said quietly. Mother Lean's cursed child. The creature spread its wings, huge, bat-like, tutted. And then a scream, a high, piercing shriek that rattled the tower. Then it launched into the air. "Down!" Evan shouted. "Get down!" We ducked as the creature swooped past, its wings beating the air with a sound like thunder. It circled the tower. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it landed on the roof. The metal buckled, the whole tower shook, and it screamed. The creature clawed at the roof, its horns scraping against the metal. "We have to get out," Evan yelled. "How?" I cried. He pointed to the ladder. Down, into the dark, into the woods. We waited. But staying meant dying, so we climbed. The creature shrieked again, furious. It tore at the roof. Metal screeched. We climbed faster. We reached the ground and ran. The creature launched itself from the tower, crashing into the trees behind us. Branches snapped. Wings beat. Hooves pounding. It was chasing us. We didn't look back. We ran until we couldn't breathe. Then we ran more. The woods blurred around us. The sky vanished behind the canopy. The ground turned soft, then hard, then soft again. We stumbled into a clearing. Hannah collapsed on her knees, gasping. Evan bent over, hands on his thighs. I leaned against a tree, my heart pounding. "We can't keep running," and I whispered. "We need a plan. We need to find a road," Evan said. "Any road, Koran's road can't be far." "It feels like we've been walking in circles," I said. "We haven't," he insisted. "We just..." A sound cut him off. A soft thud. We turned, and it was gone. Her backpack lay on the ground, still warm. And I started. A scream tore through the trees. Hard, short, cut off, and grabbed my arm. "Run!" We found it by accident. A small, rotting cabin hidden among the trees. The windows were boarded. The door hung crooked. "We can't hide," Evan said. "No," I whispered. "We shouldn't go in there. Lydia, we don't have a choice." He pushed the door open. The smell hit us first. Rot, decay, old blood. The inside was dark, lit only by slivers of moonlight through the cracks. There were symbols carved into the walls, strange shapes, circles, lines, hoof prints. "This is bad," I whispered. "It's shelter," Evan said. We barricaded the door with a broken table, sat in the corner, tried not to breathe too loudly. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time didn't work right in the Barrens. Then, footsteps. Footsteps. Outside. Slow. Never. Wolves. They stopped at the door. The creature sniffed. The wood creaked. Evan grabbed my hand. The creature scraped his claws against the door. Once. Twice. Then it spoke. A voice like wind through dead leaves. Lydia. Blood froze. Evan's grip tightened. The creature laughed. A horrible, rasping sound. Then it walked away. We didn't move. Not until dawn. We left the cabin as soon as the sun rose. The woods were quiet. Too quiet. We're close, Evan said. I can feel it. Close to what? I asked. Civilization. A road. Something. We walked. Hours passed. At the trees, then the ground sloped upward, and then a sound. A distant engine. A car. We're near the road, Evan shouted. He ran ahead. Evan, wait! I called. He didn't. He disappeared over a small rise I followed. When I reached the top, I saw him, standing in the middle of a clearing, staring at something above him. I looked up. The creature perched on a branch, its wings spread, its eyes glowing, its mouth twisted into something like a smile. Evan, I whispered. Don't move. He didn't listen. He ran. The creature dropped from the tree, fast, too fast. It hit him before he took 3 steps. He screamed. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I didn't know how long I ran. Hours, days, a lifetime. The woods blurred around me. The trees, then the ground hidden, and then pavement. A road. The a road. I stumbled onto it, sobbing. A car surrounding the bend. I stumbled into the middle of the road, waving my arms, screaming. The driver slammed the brakes, tires skidding on the asphalt. The car stopped just a few feet from me. The door flew open. A man in his 60s stepped out, eyes wide. Jesus Christ, miss. Are you hurt? What happened? I tried to speak. Nothing came out. My throat felt raw, scraped, hollowed by hours of screaming. He rose slowly, like I was a wounded animal. Easy now, easy. You're safe. Safe. The word didn't feel real. Nothing felt real. He guided me into the passenger seat. The whole horseshoe was warm from the sun. The air smelled like coffee and pine scented air freshener. Normal smells. Human smells. I started shaking. Where are the others? He asked gently as he pulled back onto the road. I opened my mouth. A sound came out. A broken whisper. God. He didn't ask anything else. He didn't need to. Being in the Pine Barrens knew when not to ask questions. He drove me to the ranger station at Astion. The building looked impossibly solid, impossibly safe. A ranger came out, her face tightening when she saw me. Another one? She murmured. Another one. As if this wasn't unusual. As if this happened. As if the Barrens took people all the time. They wrapped me in a blanket, gave me water, asked me questions I couldn't answer. Where did you get lost? How long were you out there? What happened to your crew? I told them pieces. Not the whole truth. Not the creature. Not the screams. Not the way the words moved. Not the voice that knew my name. I told them we got separated. That we panicked. That I ran. They nodded. People always ran. They took me to a hospital in Hamilton. I stayed overnight. They said I was dehydrated, exhausted, traumatized. They didn't say I was lucky, because I wasn't. Not really. Not when I knew what was still out there. Not when I knew it wasn't finished. Not when I knew it had let me go. They found nothing. No bodies, no backpacks, no footprints, no signs of struggle. Nothing. As if the woods had swallowed my co-workers home. As if they had never existed. The official report said lost hikers presumed deceased. Presumed, as if there was any doubt. My company sent flowers, held a memorial, gave me time off. People whispered in hallways when I returned. Some looked at me with pity, some with suspicion, some with fear, as if I hadn't brought something back with me. Maybe I had. I tried to move on. I tried to sleep. I tried to forget. But the Barons don't let you forget. Not when they've mauled you. Not when they've spared you. Not when they spoke in your name. It happened 3 mornings after I got home. I woke up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, the room cold. Too cold. I got out of bed and walked to the window. The street was empty. The sky was clear. The moon was full. In there, in the thin layer of frost on my lawn, I saw them. Footprints. Large, deep, beloved, leading from the street to my window. And then back into the darkness. I didn't scream. I didn't call the police. I just stood there, staring at the prints until the sun melted them away. A week later, I had it again. Late at night, when the world was quiet, when the fences were down. A whisper, soft, familiar. Lydia. I froze. The voice came from the hallway, from the shadows, from the dark corner where the light didn't reach. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The voice came again, closer. Lydia. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the hallway was empty, but the smell lingered. Sulfur, rot, pine, the smell of the birds. People ask me what happened. I tell them we got lost, that we panicked, that the woods were confusing, the Pine Barrens are dangerous. All of that is true, but it's not the whole truth. The whole truth is, there is something in those woods, something old, something hungry, something that was born in pain and curse and darkness, something that has been hunting for centuries. It doesn't kill for food, it doesn't kill for territory. It kills because it can, because it wants to, because it enjoys it. And sometimes, just sometimes, it lets one person go. And out of mercy, out of curiosity, out of curiosity, out of hunger for the fear that lingers, I was the one that let go. I don't know why. I don't know what haunts. I don't know when it will come back. But I know this. My parents keep what they take. And they took 4 people. But they didn't take me. Not yet. It's been months now. I've moved twice. Changed my number. Stopped going outside after dark. But it doesn't matter. It always finds me. Sometimes I hear wings being outside my window. Sometimes I see shadows moving against the moon. Sometimes I wake up with the smell of pine in my room. And sometimes, when the night is very still, I hear it breathing right outside my window, waiting, watching, remembering. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm not telling you this for attention. I'm telling you this because you need to understand something. The Jersey Devil is real. The Pine Barrens are not empty. And if you ever go into those woods, if you ever step off the road or follow a trail that shouldn't be there, or hear a voice calling your name, don't answer. Don't look. Don't listen. Don't follow. Run. Run until your lungs burn. Run until your legs give out. Run until you reach pavement and people are light. Because if you don't, if you hesitate, if you doubt, if you take one step too far into the dark, it will find you. But like it found us, just like it found me, just like it's still finding me. People ask me how I survived. I tell them I ran. But the truth is simple. I didn't survive. Not really. Not when it's still out there. Not when it still knows my name. Not when I still hear it whispering in the dark. I'm not a survivor. I'm a witness. I'm a warning. A loose end. And the Barons don't leave loose ends. It's outside again. Right now. I can hear it. Hooves on pavement. Wings brushing against the siding. Breath falling in the glass. It's waiting. It's patient. It's hungry. And I know, that this time, it didn't come to watch. It came to finish what it started. If you're reading this, if you're hearing my story, if you're thinking about going into those ones, don't. Please don't. Because the Pine Barrens keep what they take. And tonight, they come back for me.
The Pine Barrens swallowed the last of the daylight as the old van rattled down a narrowing dirt path, its headlights carving thin tunnels through thickets of pitch pine and scrub oak. The air smelled of resin and damp earth, a scent that clung to the windows like a warning. Inside the van, four friends rode with the restless energy of people who believed they were heading towards adventure rather than ruin. Mara sat in the passenger seat, her boots propped up on the dashboard, flipping through a dog-eared guidebook of local legends. She had highlighted half the pages circling references to strange sightings, unexplained tracks, and the infamous creature that haunted the region for centuries. Page 63, she said, tapping the book. Earliest recorded sighting of the Jersey Devil. A merchant claimed he saw a winged thing perched on a dead tree, watching him like it was deciding whether to make him a good meal or not. Caleb, driving, snorted. A merchant in 1820 also claimed his horse could predict the weather. People were weird. People are still weird, Mara shot back. And you're the one who agreed to come, camping in the Barrens. Don't pretend you're above this. In the back, Jess and Nolan were half listening, half arguing about how much beer they'd packed. Jess, meticulous and sharp-eyed, had insisted on bringing enough water and first aid supplies for a small expedition. Nolan, whose idea of preparation was remembering to charge his phone, had stuffed the cooler with cans until the lid barely closed. Relax, Nolan said, nudging Jess with his elbow. We're not trekking across the Sahara. It's New Jersey. Jess gave him a look. New Jersey has more missing person cases in the Barrens than some national parks. Because people get lost, Nolan said. Not because a demon bird dragon thing eats them. Mara grinned. It's not a demon bird dragon. It's a cursed child, born wrong, born hungry. Caleb rolled his eyes. Born from a woman who had too many kids and snapped. It's a metaphor for stress. It's a metaphor to you, Mara said. Some things are just monsters. The van lurched over a rut, and the forest seemed to close in tighter. Branches scraped the roof like claws. The road had become little more than two muddy tracks, widening deeper into a place that felt untouched by time. Just leaned forward. GPS says campsites in another mile. Good, Caleb said. I'd like to stop before the van shakes itself apart. But the van kept going, deeper and deeper, until the trees grew so dense the headlights bounced off of them, swallowed by the darkness. The forest felt alive, not in the gentle way of rustling leaves and distant birds, but in the heavy, watchful way of something waiting, something aware, and something patient. The campsite was little more than a clearing surrounded by towering pines, their trunks rising like pillars in a cathedral built for something ancient. The ground was soft with needles, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. Caleb parked the van, and everyone spilled out, stretching stiff limbs. No one cracked open a beer immediately. Jess shot him a look, but said nothing. Mara wandered towards the tree line, her fingers brushing the bark. This place feels old. It is old, Jess said, unloading gear. The barrens are prehistoric in some areas. No, Mara said. I mean, old in a different way. Caleb joined her. You're imagining things. Maybe, she said. Maybe not. They set up tents, built a fire, and settled in as night crept across the sky. The flames cast flickering shadows that danced along the trunks, making the forest seem to breathe. Nolan raised his spear. To surviving the barrens. Jess clinked her water bottle against it. To not doing anything stupid. Caleb lifted his cup of instant coffee. To Mara not summoning anything. Mara smirked. I make no promises. They laughed, but the sound felt thin, swallowed quickly by the trees. As the fire crackled, Mara opened her guidebook again. Listen to this. In 1909, dozens of people across New Jersey reported seeing the devil. Schools closed, factories shut down, police fired at something perched on a roof. But the bullets didn't do anything. Nolan snorted. Mass hysteria? Jess shook her head. Not all sightings were in crowds. Some were isolated. Hunters, farmers, people who didn't even know each other. Caleb poked the fire. People see what they expect to see. Marlene Ford. Then what do you expect to see? Caleb hesitated. Nothing? Good, Mara said softly, because that's when it finds you. A sudden rustle came from the woods. Everyone froze. Jess turned. Probably a deer. Nolan nodded. Or a raccoon. But Mara's eyes stayed fixed on the dark. Or something else. The rustling stopped. The forest went still. Too still. Caleb cleared his throat. Let's not freak ourselves out on the first night. They returned to their drinks and stories, but the unease lingered, threading through their conversations like a cold draft. Hours passed. The fire burned low. The moon rose, pale and thin, barely illuminating the clearing. Just stood. I'm turning in. Nolan followed. Same. Caleb stretched. Wake me if the devil shows up. Mara didn't laugh. She stared into the woods, her expression unreadable. When the others disappeared into their tents, she whispered to the trees, If you're out there, I want to see you. The forest did not answer, but something shifted in the dark. Mara woke to silence, not the soft silence of a sleeping forest, but a heavy, suffocating stillness. No insects, no wind, no distant rustle of nocturnal creatures. She sat up in her tent listening. Nothing. A faint glow seeped through the fabric. The dying fire. She slipped out of her sleeping bag, unzipped the tent, and stepped into the clearing. The fire was embers now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Caleb's tent was zipped, Jess's too. Nolan's was half open, his boots sticking out. Mara frowned. Nolan? No answer. She approached his tent. Nolan, are you okay? Still nothing. She crouched, pushing the flap aside. The tent was empty. His sleeping bag lay crumpled as if he'd left in a hurry. Mara's pulse quickened. She stood scanning the clearing. Nolan? Her voice seemed to be swallowed by the trees. She walked towards the tree line, her breath visible in the cold air. Nolan, this isn't funny. A branch snapped deeper in the woods. Mara froze. Nolan? Another snap. Closer. Then a sound, low, guttural, almost like a growl, but wrong. Too deep, too resonant, too aware. Mara backed away. Nolan, if you're messing with me. Something moved between the trees. A shape, tall, thin, and bent. She couldn't see the details, only the silhouette. Long limbs, hunchback, something like horns or antlers rising from its head. Her breath hitched. The shape shifted. Then it stepped forward. Moonlight caught its outline. Not antlers. Wings. Huge, skeletal wings that unfurled with a leathery whisper. Mara stumbled backwards, her heart hammering. The creature tilted its head, studying her. Its eyes glowed faintly. Not red, not yellow, but something like burning coal buried under ash. It took another step. Mara turned and ran. She sprinted across the clearing, tripping over roots, gasping for breath. She reached Caleb's tent and tore it open. Caleb, wake up! He jolted upright. What? It's here. What's here? The Jersey Devil. Caleb blinked. Mara? A scream cut through the night. Jess's voice, high, terrified. Caleb scrambled out of the tent. Mara followed. Jess burst from her own tent, eyes wide, pointing towards the woods. Nolan, something grabbed him. Caleb grabbed her shoulders. What do you mean, grabbed? Jess shook her head violently. I heard him scream. Then something dragged him away. Mara pointed towards the woods. It's out there. Caleb stared at her. You saw something? Yes. Jess clutched her arms. We need to leave. Now. Caleb nodded. Get to the van. They ran, but the forest was no longer silent. It was waking. The van sat at the edge of the clearing, its metal shell reflecting the moonlight. Caleb fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking. Jess paced behind him. Hurry. Mara kept her eyes on the tree line. It's watching. Caleb cursed. The lock's jammed. Jess grabbed his arm. Try another key. There is no other key. Mara stepped closer. Caleb, move. She shoved him aside and grabbed the handle and yanked. The door opened. Caleb stared. How? It wasn't locked, Mara said. You panicked. They piled in. Caleb turned the key in the ignition and the engine sputtered, then died. He tried again. Nothing. Jess's breathing quickened. No, 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 no. Caleb slammed his fist against the wheel. Come on. Mara whispered. It doesn't want us to leave. Jess turned. Don't say that. Mara didn't look away from the woods. It's true. The sound drifted from the trees, a low, rhythmic thumping, like wings beating the air. Caleb froze. What is that? Jess whispered. It's coming. The thumping grew louder, closer. Then a shriek tore through the night. A sound so sharp it felt like claws raking across their skulls. Jess covered her ears. Caleb ducked. Mara stared straight ahead. The trees shook. Branches snapped, and something landed on the roof of the van with a force that dented the metal inwards. Jess screamed. Caleb grabbed the gear shift. Come on, come on. The creature's weight shifted, scraping across the roof. Its claws, long, hooked, metallic, dragging lines through the paint. Mara whispered, It's testing us. Jess sobbed, Stop saying things like that. The creature moved again, its shadow sliding across the windshield. A long, narrow face appeared, equine yet twisted, with a jaw that seemed too wide, too flexible, Its nostrils flared, steaming the glass. Caleb froze. Jess covered her mouth. Mara just stared. The creature tilted its head, studying them. Then its mouth opened. Rows of needle-like teeth glinted. Caleb screamed and slammed the horn. The blaring sound startled the creature. It reared back, wings flaring, and the van rocked violently. Go! Jess shouted. Caleb turned the key again. The engine coughed, then roared to life. He floored the gas. The van lurched forward, throwing the creature off the roof. It hit the ground, shrieking, wings flailing. Caleb steered wildly, tires skidding on the dirt, and the van shot down the road, bouncing over ruts. Jess sobbed, "Is it following?" Mara looked out the back window. The creature stood in the clearing, wings spread, watching them flee. "It's not following," Mara said. Jess exhaled shakily. Caleb gripped the wheel. "Good." Mara whispered, "Not yet." The van barreled down the dirt road, headlights slicing through the dark. Caleb kept his foot on the gas, refusing to slow down. Jess wiped tears from her face. "We need to call someone." Nolan's phone lay on the floor, screen cracked. Jess grabbed her own, but there was no signal. "Of course," she muttered. "Of course there's no signal." Caleb didn't look away from the road. "We'll get out of the Barrens, then we'll call the police." Mara stared out the window. "If we get out." Jess glared. "Stop." Mara didn't respond. The road twisted sharply. Caleb swerved, tires skidding. "This wasn't here before." Jess leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "The road didn't curve like this." Jess frowned. "Maybe you're misremembering." "No," Caleb said. "I'm not." The road curved again, and again, and again. Jess's voice trembled. "Caleb, are we going in circles?" Mara whispered, "It's changing path." Jess snapped, "Stop saying that." Caleb slowed the van. "I don't know what's happening." The trees pressed closer, branches scraping the sides of the van. The headlights flickered. Jess clutched her seat. "Caleb, keep driving." "I am." The road narrowed until it was barely wide enough for the van. The trees leaned inward, forming a tunnel of branches. Mara whispered, "It's guiding us." Jess shouted, "Shut up." Caleb's knuckles were white on the wheel. "I don't know where the road leads." The tunnel grew louder and darker, tighter. The branches scraped louder, like fingernails on metal. Jess covered her ears. "Make it stop." Mara stared straight ahead. "It won't stop." Caleb whispered, "What does it want?" Mara answered softly, "Us." The road ended abruptly. A fallen tree blocked the path, massive and ancient, its roots torn from the earth. Caleb slammed on the brakes and the van skidded to a halt. Jess screamed. Mara whispered, "It's here." The forest went silent again. Caleb stared at the fallen tree. "We can move it." Jess shook her head. "It's huge." "We can try." Mara didn't move. "It won't matter." Jess snapped, "Stop being cryptic." Mara turned to her. "I'm not being cryptic. I'm being honest." Caleb opened the door. "We need to do something." Jess followed reluctantly. Mara stepped out last, her eyes scanning the trees. The air felt heavy, charged. Caleb approached the fallen tree. Help me push. Jess grabbed one end. It's not going to budge. They pushed. It didn't move. Caleb grunted. Again. They pushed harder. Nothing. Mara whispered, It's not meant to move. Jess turned. Then what do we do? A sound drifted through the trees. A low, rhythmic thumping. Wings. Caleb froze. No. Jess backed away. Not again. Mara stared into the dark. It never left. The thumping grew louder, closer. Then the creature stepped into the road. It was taller than before, or maybe the moonlight revealed more of its twisted form. Its body gaunt, ribs visible beneath leathery skin. Its legs were long and thin, ending in cloven hooves that struck the ground with unnatural force. Its wings unfurled, stretching wider than the road. Its head was equine but wrong. Elongated, twisted, with a jaw that seemed to unhinge too far. Its eyes glowed faintly, burning with a cold intelligence. Jess whispered, Oh, God. Caleb stepped back. Stay behind me. The creature tilted its head, studying him. Then it spoke, not in words, in a sound, a guttural, rasping noise that vibrated through their bones, conveying hunger, curiosity, and something like amusement. Jess covered her ears. Make it stop. Caleb grabbed her arm. Get back in the van. They ran. The creature moved faster. It lunged. Caleb shoved Jess towards the van. Go! Jess scrambled inside. Mara followed. Caleb turned to run. The creature's wings struck him, sending him sprawling. Jess screamed, Caleb! Mara reached for him. Get up! Caleb staggered to his feet, but the creature was already on him. It grabbed him with one clawed hand, lifting him off the ground. Caleb screamed. Jess sobbed, No! Mara shouted, Let him go! The creature turned its head towards her. Its eyes glowed brighter. Then it opened its mouth. Caleb's scream cut off. The creature bit down. Blood sprayed across the road. Jess screamed. Mara froze. Caleb's body fell to the ground, limp and broken. The creature turned towards the van. Jess whispered, We're gonna die. Mara whispered, Not yet. Mara grabbed Jess's arm. We need to run. Jess shook her head. It'll catch us. Not if we move now. The creature stepped towards them. Mara shoved Jess out of the passenger door. Go! Jess stumbled into the woods. Mara followed. The creature shrieked, wings flaring. They ran. Branches tore at their clothes. Roots tripped their feet. The forest seemed to twist around them, guiding them deeper. Jess gasped. What are we doing? Where are we going? Anywhere but here. The creature crashed through the trees behind them, its wings snapping branches like twigs. Jess sobbed, It's too fast. Mara grabbed her hand. Don't stop. They ran until their lungs burned, until their legs felt like lead, until the forest blurred into streaks of shadow and moonlight. The creature shrieked again, closer. Jess stumbled. Mara caught her. Keep moving. I can't. You can. They reached a clearing, a wide circular patch of earth where nothing grew. No grass, no shrubs, no fallen needles, just bare soil, pale and dry as if the forest refused to claim it. Jess stumbled into the open space and collapsed to her knees, gasping. Mara bent down beside her, listening for the creature's wings. Silence. Not safety. A pause. Jess clutched her chest. I can't, I can't, I can't breathe. Mara scanned the tree line. We need to keep moving. Jess shook her head. I can't. You have to. Jess looked up, eyes wet. Why is this happening? Mara didn't answer. She didn't know how. The clearing felt wrong. The air was colder here, heavy with a faint sulfuric scent. The moonlight seemed dimmer, as if the sky itself recoiled from this place. Jess whispered, What is this? Mara swallowed. A nest. Jess's eyes widened. No. A branch snapped behind them. Mara grabbed Jess's arm. Get up. Jess forced herself to stand. They moved towards the opposite side of the clearing. The forest seemed to shift. The trees leaned inwards, narrowing the exit. Jess whispered, It's trapping us. Mara didn't deny it. Another snap. Then a low, rumbling growl rolled through the clearing, vibrating the soil beneath their feet. Jess whimpered, It's here. Mara turned slowly. The creature stepped into the clearing. Its wings folded tight against its back, its long limbs moving with unnatural grace. Its hoofs struck the ground behind them with deliberate force. Its eyes glowed brighter now, reflecting the moonlight like molten metal. Jess backed away. Please, please don't. The creature tilted its head, studying her. Then it looked at Mara. She felt its gaze like a weight pressing against her ribs. Jess whispered, Run, run. Mara didn't move. The creature took a step towards her. Jess grabbed her arm. Mara, please. Mara whispered, It's not chasing us. Jess stared. What? It's hurting us. Jess shook her violently. No. Mara's voice was steady. It wants something. Jess sobbed. It wants to kill us. Mara didn't look away from the creature. Not yet. The creature stepped closer. Jess screamed and bolted towards the trees. The creature lunged. Mara shouted, Jess! Jess reached the tree line, but the branches twisted, slamming together, blocking her path. She clawed at them, screaming. The creature's wings swept forward, striking Jess across the back. She flew into the clearing, hitting the ground hard. Mara ran to her. Jess! Jess groaned. Blood trickled from her mouth. The creature approached, its hooves sinking slightly into the dry soil. Mara stood between it and Jess. Stop! The creature paused, its eyes locked onto hers. Mara felt something shift, not in the air, but inside her. A cold, creeping sensation like fingers brushing the back of her skull. Jess whispered, Mara, don't. Mara didn't move. The creature lowered its head, nostrils flaring. It inhaled deeply as if scenting her. Then it spoke again, that guttural, resonant sound that wasn't a language but conveyed meaning. Hunger, recognition, acclaim. Jess whimpered, What's it doing? Mara whispered, Choosing. The creature's wings unfurled slowly, casting a massive shadow across the clearing. Jess screamed. Mara stood still. The creature stepped closer. Then it stopped. Its head snapped towards the trees. A new sound echoed through the forest, distant, sharp, and metallic. A gunshot. Jess gasped, "Someone's out there." The creature shrieked, wings flaring. It turned towards the sound, its body tensing. Mara grabbed Jess. "Move!" They ran towards the opposite side of the clearing. The trees parted this time, allowing them through. Behind them, the creature shrieked again, furious, wounded, and enraged. Jess sobbed, "Who's fired that shot?" Mara didn't know, but she knew one thing. The creature wasn't done. They ran until their legs shook, until their lungs burned, until the forest thinned enough for the moonlight to reach the ground. Jess collapsed against the fallen log. I can't go any further." Mara knelt beside her. "We need shelter." Jess shook her head. "There's nothing out here." Mara scanned the trees. Then she saw it. A faint glow through the branches. Not moonlight. Something warmer. Flickering. Jess whispered, "Is that a fire?" Mara nodded. "Someone's out there." Jess grabbed her arm. "What if it's dangerous?" Mara stared at the glow. "Everything out here is dangerous." They moved towards the light, pushing through the thick underbrush until they reached a small clearing. A shack stood in the center, old, weathered, leaning slightly to one side. A lantern hung by the door, casting a dim glow across the warped boards. Jess whispered, "Who lives here?" Mara didn't answer. The door creaked open. A man stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a thick beard and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. He held a shotgun in one hand, the barrel pointed towards the ground. He stared at them. Jess trembled. Please help us." The man didn't move. Mara stepped forward. "Something is hunting us." The man's jaw tightened. "I know." Jess sobbed. "It killed our friends." The man nodded slowly. "It kills everyone." Mara swallowed. "You fired the shot." "Yes." Jess whispered. "Why?" "To distract it." Mara stared. "Why help us?" The man looked at her, his eyes dark. "Because it's getting bolder." Jess wiped her face. "What do you mean?" The man stepped aside. "Get inside." Jess hesitated. "Can we trust you?" The man's voice was flat. "You can trust that staying out here will get you killed." Mara helped Jess to her feet. They entered the shack. Inside, the air smelled of smoke and old wood. A small stove crackled in the corner. Maps covered the walls, hand-drawn, marked with symbols and notes. Jess whispered, "What is all this?" The man closed the door. "My work?" Mara studied the maps. "You track it." "Yes." Jess stared. "Why?" The man sat at the small table. "Because someone has to." Mara approached him. "What is it?" He looked up. "You already know." Jess shook her head. "We don't understand." The man leaned back. "It's older than the legends, older than the barons. It's not a cursed child, it's not a demon, it's something else." Mara whispered, "Then what is it?" The man's eyes darkened. "A mistake?" Jess frowned. "A mistake?" The man nodded. "Something that shouldn't exist." Mara sat across from him. How do we stop it? He shook his head. You don't. Jess whispered. Then what do we do? The man looked at the door. Survive? A shriek echoed through the forest. Jess flinched. It found us. The man stood. It always finds you. Mara whispered. Can it get in? The man checked the shotgun. Not easily. Jess trembled. What does that mean? The man didn't answer. Another shriek. Closer. The shack trembled. Jess screamed, and the man whispered, It's here. The creature landed on the roof with a force that rattled the walls. Dust rained from the ceiling. The lantern flickered. Jess covered her ears. Make it stop. The man raised the shotgun. Stay behind me. Mara pulled Jess towards the corner. Don't look at it. The creature's claw scraped across the roof, tearing through the wood. A long, narrow crack appeared, moonlight spilling through. Jess sobbed, It's going to break in. The man aimed at the ceiling. Not if I stop it. He fired. The blast shook the shack. Splinters flew. The creature shrieked, wings flaring. It leapt off the roof, landing outside with a thud that shook the ground. The man reloaded. It's testing us. Mara whispered. It tested the van. Jess trembled. What does it want? The man didn't answer. A shadow passed the window. Massive, distorted, and wrong, the creature's wings brushed the glass, leaving streaks of dark residue. Jess whispered, It's circling. The man nodded. It's deciding how to get in. Mara stared at him. You've seen this before. Too many times. Jess clutched her arms. How are you still alive? The man's voice was flat. Luck. The creature shrieked again, louder and angrier. The shack shook. A board snapped near the roof. Jess screamed, It's breaking through. The man raised the shotgun again. Stay down. He fired at the wall. The blast tore a hole through the boards. The creature shrieked, wings flaring. It backed away, but only for a moment. Mara grabbed Jess. We need to move. Jess shook her head. Where? The man pointed to a trap door in the floor. Down. Jess stared. What's down there? Safety. Mara didn't hesitate. She pulled the trapdoor open. A ladder descended into darkness. Jess whispered, I don't want to go down there. The man reloaded. You want to stay up here? Another shriek. The roof cracked. Jess screamed, Okay, okay. Mara climbed down first. Jess followed, sobbing. The man descended last, closing the trapdoor behind him. The space below was small, cramped, and lit by a single bulb. Shelves lined the walls, filled with jars, tools, and old books. Jess wiped her face. What is this place? The man sat on a crate. My refuge? Mara studied him. How long have you lived out here? Years. Jess whispered, Why? The man looked at the ceiling. Because once you see it, you can't leave. Mara frowned. What do you mean? The man met her eyes. It marks you. Jess trembled. Marks you? The man nodded. It remembers. Mara whispered, Remembers what? The man's voice was low. Faces, voices, fear. Jess sobbed, "We didn't do anything." The man shook his head. "You entered its territory." Mara swallowed. "Then how do we get out?" The man just looked at her. "You don't." The creature prowled above them, its claws scraping the roof of the shack. Dust drifted down through the cracks in the trapdoor. Jess covered her head, trembling. Mara stared at the man. "There has to be a way." He shook his head. "Not for all of you." Jess whispered, "What does that mean?" The man didn't answer. Mara stepped closer. "Tell me." He sighed. "It hunts in patterns. It chooses one to take, one to torment, one to leave." Jess sobbed. "Leave? Why?" The man's eyes darkened. "To spread the story." Mara felt her stomach twist. "It lets someone survive." "Yes." Jess whispered, "Why?" "So people keep coming." Mara stared. "It wants witnesses." The man nodded. "It wants fear." Jess shook her head violently. "I don't want to be chosen." The man looked at her. "You might not be." Jess sobbed harder. Mara whispered, "How do you know all this?" The man hesitated. Then he lifted his shirt. A long, jagged scar ran across his ribs, deep, twisted, puckered like something had torn him open. Jess gasped, "Oh my God." The man lowered his shirt. "It took my brother. It left me." Mara whispered, "Why?" "To make sure I'd talk." Jess trembled. "You stayed out here." The man nodded. "To warn people." Mara stared. "But you didn't warn us. You wouldn't have listened." Jess sobbed, "We would have." The man shook his head. "No one ever does." The creature shrieked above them, wings beating the roof. Jess covered her ears. "Make it stop." The man stood. "It won't stop." Mara whispered, "Then what do we do?" The man looked at her. "You wait." Jess screamed, "For what?" The man's voice was flat. "For it to choose." The creature's shrieks grew louder, more frantic. The shack trembled. The trapdoor rattled. Jess sobbed, "It's coming down here." The man shook his head. "It can't fit." Mara whispered, "Then why is it trying?" The man looked at her. "Because it's impatient." Jess trembled. "Impatient for what?" The man didn't answer. The creature slammed against the roof again. Dust rained down. The bulb flickered. Jess screamed, "I can't do this." Mara grabbed her shoulders. "Jess, look at me." Jess sobbed, "I don't want to die." "You're not going to die." Jess shook her head. "You don't know that." Mara held her tighter. "I won't let it take you." Jess stared at her. "Why?" Mara swallowed. "Because it wants me." Jess froze. "What?" The man looked at Mara. "You saw it first." Mara nodded. "It looked at me differently." Jess whispered, "No." The man's voice was low. "It marked you." Jess sobbed, "Then why is it still hunting us?" because it hasn't decided how. Mara whispered, "What does it want from me?" The man stared at her. "It wants you to follow." Jess shook her head violently. "No, no, no, no." Mara felt her chest tighten. "Follow where?" The man pointed upwards, to its nest. Jess screamed, "She's not going anywhere." The man didn't look away from Mara. "If you don't go, it will kill all of us." Jess sobbed, "Please don't listen to him." Mara whispered, "Jess?" Jess grabbed her hand. "Don't leave me." The creature shrieked again, the sound filled with fury and hunger. The trapdoor cracked. Jess screamed. The man raised the shotgun. "It's forcing your hand." Mara stared at the trapdoor, then at Jess, then at the man. Her voice was barely audible. "I'll go." Jess collapsed. "No." Mara squeezed her hand. "I'll come back." Jess shook her head. "You won't." Mara whispered, "I have to try." The man opened the trapdoor. The moonlight spilled in. The creature shrieked. Mara climbed the ladder. Jess screamed her name. Mara didn't look back. The creature stood on the roof, wings spread, eyes glowing. It watched Mara climb out of the trapdoor, its gaze fixed on her. Mara stepped onto the roof, her legs shaking. The creature lowered its head, nostrils flaring. Mara whispered, "I'm here." The creature tilted its head. Then it turned and walked into the forest. Mara followed. The trees parted for the creature, closing behind them. The air grew colder. The moonlight dimmed. The forest seemed to pulse with a slow, rhythmic beat. Mara whispered, "Where are you taking me?" The creature didn't respond. They reached another clearing, larger than the first, surrounded by twisted trees. The ground was covered in bones, animal bones, human bones, some fresh, some ancient. Mara swallowed hard. The creature stepped into the center of the clearing. Mara followed. The air felt heavy, thick with the scent of decay. The creature turned to her. Its eyes glowed brighter. Mara whispered, "What do you want?" The creature opened its mouth, not to bite, to speak. The sound that came out was deeper than before, resonant, vibrating through the ground, through the trees, through her bones. It conveyed one thing: submission. Mara shook her head. "No." The creature stepped closer, its wings unfurled, its claws flexed. Mara whispered, "I won't." The creature shrieked, the sound filled with rage. It lunged. Mara dove aside. Rolling across the bones, she scrambled to her feet, heart pounding. The creature turned, wings flaring. Mara grabbed a femur from the ground and swung it. It struck the creature's leg. The creature shrieked, more surprised than hurt. Mara ran. The creature followed. She sprinted across the clearing, dodging bones, weaving between twisted roots. The creature's wings beat the air, sending gusts of wind that knocked her off balance. She reached the tree line. The trees closed. She slammed into them, screaming. The creature approached slowly. Mara backed against the trees. "Please?" The creature lowered its head. Its eyes glowed, its mouth open. Mara screamed. Jess sat in the refuge, trembling, listening to the creature's shrieks echo through the forest. The man stood by the ladder, shotgun ready. She's gone, Jess whispered. The man didn't answer. The shrieks grew louder and then stopped. Jess covered her mouth. Oh, God. Silence, heavy and absolute. Jess sobbed. She's dead. The man whispered. Maybe. Jess glared at him. You don't care. He looked at her. I care more than you know. Jess shook her head. You let her go. I didn't let her. She chose. Jess sobbed. She didn't have a choice. The man didn't respond. The silence stretched. Then a sound drifted through the forest. Footsteps. Slow, uneven. Jess froze. No. The man raised the shotgun. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. The trapdoor shuddered as the footsteps reached it. Slow, dragging, uneven. Jess pressed herself against the wall, shaking violently. The man aimed the shotgun at the hatch, jaw clenched. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Jess whispered, Is it her? The man didn't lower the gun. Stay back. A soft knock tapped against the wood. Jess sobbed, Mara? The man's voice was low. It might not be. Jess crawled towards the ladder. She's alive. The man stepped in front of her. You don't know that. Jess shoved him. Move. He didn't. The knock came again. 3 slow taps. Jess whispered, She's always knocked like that. The man hesitated. Then he opened the trap door. Moonlight spilled in. A figure stood above them. Mara. But not the Mara that had climbed out of the refuge. Her clothes were torn, soaked in dirt and blood. Her hair hung in tangled strands. Her eyes, once sharp, curious, now glowed faintly, reflecting the moonlight like polished stones. Jess gasped, Mara! Mara stepped down the ladder slowly, each movement deliberate and controlled. The man raised the shotgun, but Mara didn't look at him. She looked at Jess. Jess crawled forward. You're alive. Mara nodded once. Jess threw her arms around her. Mara didn't hug back. Jess pulled away confused. Mara? Mara's voice was soft. Jess? Jess smiled through tears. I thought you were dead. Mara blinked slowly. I was chosen. The man stiffened. What do you mean? Mara turned to him. Her eyes glowed brighter. Jess whispered, Mara, what happened? Mara's voice was calm. It showed me. Mara stepped closer. Its purpose. The man raised the shotgun. Stay where you are. Mara didn't stop. Jess grabbed her arm. Mara, you're scaring me. Mara looked at her. Don't be afraid. Jess shook her head. I don't understand. Mara's voice was almost gentle. It doesn't want to kill anyone, only those who resist. Jess backed away. Resist what? Mara reached out a hand, touching Jess's cheek. Jess froze. Mara whispered, The Barrens need a voice. Jess's breath hitched. Mara, please. Mara's expression didn't change. It chose me. The man fired. The blast echoed through the refuge. Mara staggered backwards, the shot tearing through her shoulder. She didn't scream. She didn't fall. She simply turned toward the man, her eyes glowing brighter. Jess screamed, "Stop!" Mara stepped forward. The man fired again. The shot hit her chest. She didn't react. Jess sobbed, "Mara, please stop." Mara looked at her. "I can't." The man backed away, reloading frantically. "She's not human anymore." Mara moved faster than before. A blur of motion, she grabbed the shotgun, wrenching it from his hands. The metal bent in her grip like soft clay. Jess screamed. The man stumbled backwards. "Stay away from me." Mara tilted her head. "You've lived too long." She struck him with the twisted shotgun. The blow crushed his skull. Jess screamed again, collapsing against the wall. Mara dropped the weapon. She turned to Jess. Jess sobbed, "Please, please don't hurt me." Mara knelt beside her. "I won't." Jess trembled. "Why?" Mara touched her cheek again. "Because you'll tell them." Jess shook her head violently. "No, I won't. I won't say anything." Mara's voice was soft. "You will." Jess sobbed harder. "Please, please don't make me." Mara stood. "You'll tell them what happened. You'll tell them what you saw. You'll tell them what waits in the barrens." Jess crawled backwards. "I don't want to." Mara's eyes glowed brighter. "You don't have a choice." Jess screamed, "Why me?" Mara whispered, "Because you survived." Jess covered her ears. "No." Mara stepped towards the ladder. "It's time." Jess sobbed. "For what?" Mara looked at the trapdoor. "For you to leave." Jess stared. "You're letting me go?" Mara nodded. "You're the witness." Jess shook her head. "I don't want to be." Mara's voice was calm. "It's already decided." Jess sobbed uncontrollably. Mara climbed the ladder. Jess whispered, "Mara, please." Mara paused at the top. She looked down at Jess. Her voice was barely audible. "Run." Then she closed the trapdoor. Jess sat in the refuge, shaking violently, staring at the blood pooling beneath the man's body. The bulb flickered overhead. The air felt suffocating. She whispered, "I have to leave." Her legs barely worked, but she forced herself up the ladder. She pushed the trapdoor open slowly, terrified of what she might see. The shack was empty. The roof was torn. The forest was silent. Jess stepped outside, trembling. The moon hung low, pale and thin. The trees swayed gently, as if breathing. She whispered, "Mara?" No answer. Jess ran. She didn't look back. She didn't stop. She didn't breathe properly. She just ran. Through the trees, through the underbrush, through the endless maze of the barrens. Hours passed, or minutes, or days. She didn't know. Eventually, she reached a road. A real road. Paved, empty. She collapsed on the asphalt, sobbing. A car approached. It slowed. A woman stepped out. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Jess couldn't speak. The woman knelt beside her. "What happened?" Jess shook her head violently. Don't, don't go in there." The woman frowned. "Go where?" Jess pointed towards the forest. The barrens. The woman looked at the trees. "Why?" Jess whispered. "It's real." The woman hesitated. "What's real?" Jess sobbed. "The devil." The woman's expression changed. Disbelief, pity, confusion. Jess grabbed her arm. "Listen to me. Don't go in there. Don't let anyone go in there." The woman nodded slowly. Okay, let's get you some help." Jess collapsed again, shaking uncontrollably. The woman helped her into the car. Jess whispered, "Please, don't tell it I survived." The woman frowned. "Tell what?" Jess stared out the window as the car pulled away. The thing in the trees? Days later, Jess sat in a hospital, wrapped in blankets, staring at the wall. Police officers had questioned her. Doctors had examined her. Reporters had tried to speak with her. She said nothing. She didn't sleep. She didn't eat. She didn't speak. Until one night, when the nurse stepped out of the room and it grew quiet. Jess whispered, "Mara?" The shadows didn't move. The air didn't shift. But Jess felt something. A presence. A memory. A warning. She whispered again, "I'll tell them." The shadows seemed to pulse. Jess nodded slowly. "I'll tell everyone." She closed her eyes. Outside the hospital window, the wind rustled the trees. Not gently, not naturally, as if something moved through them. Something with wings. Something patient. Something that remembered. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please remember to hit that like button or leave a comment. And if you want to hear more from this channel and more stories that we've got written, please remember to hit that subscribe button. It'd mean a lot to us. Thank you, and have a great night.